watching OWN.
Victoria and George join us now from Skype from their home office in Bend, Oregon. Go ahead, George.
Yes, thank you, Oprah, for having us on the show. Eckhart, you mention the Christian doctrine a lot in your book, and this is a question to help me reconcile Christian doctrine with your teachings. If it's true that the ego loves suffering, as you mention in your book, and if it's true, as the New Testament says, that God sent his only begotten Son to suffer and die for humanity's sins, was the Passion of Christ an ego trip?
Now, I would not say that the ego loves suffering, the pain body loves suffering. The ego is actually very often tries very hard to avoid suffering. This is why we have the proverb, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The ego wants the best for you, but it produces often the worst. So I would not say that the suffering of Christ is an ego trip. It's not that. I'd like to share with you something. I had an insight some years ago. I was walking in England into a village church. It was all very quiet. I was the only person in that 600-year-old church. And I saw the cross, the altar, and Jesus on the cross. And this is an image that we are so used to, but we don't question it. But at that moment, I saw it as if I had just arrived on this planet and had never seen it before. And I was struck by the strangeness of that symbol. And I looked, there's a suffering human being in agony on this cross. And at the same time, that cross that is the torture instrument is at the same time a symbol for the divine. And suddenly I saw a very deep significance in that can be appreciated and recognized, I believe, by anybody, even if they are not Christians. Jesus on the cross stands for humanity. Jesus represents every human being that has ever lived or will ever live. He went to the depths of suffering and then totally accepted suffering. And through this total acceptance of suffering, a sudden transmutation happened, and the very torture instrument, the cross, that had produced the suffering, was transformed and became a symbol for the divine. And that explained the paradox. How can the torture instrument at the same time be a symbol of the divine? And so in every human being's life, every human being will experience some form of suffering, sometimes very intense.
Sometimes every human being, as you said last week, will have their own cross to bear.
Yes.
Will have their
every
own cross
human
to bear.
being has their own cross to bear, and every human being needs to learn the lesson that is there when we look at Jesus on the cross. He has to come to the point where the human being, instead of wanting to avoid suffering, says, this is what is, and bring a complete yes to whatever is at this moment. Even the most unacceptable situation, if there's nothing I can do about it, I bring a yes to it.
Not as I will, thy will be done.
Yes. And at that moment, the ego dies. And at that moment, the divine comes through. And the very thing that was the worst thing that could ever happen to you, when you bring surrender to it, becomes an opening into the divine. And that's the miracle and the transformative value of the cross.
Boy, I think that's powerful, George and Victoria, don't you? The moment I got that, I just got that. I had a big old epiphany.
Yeah.
The very moment, the worst thing that can happen to you, if you surrender to it, there's an opening that allows the energy of the divine to come through.
Yes.
At the moment of surrender.
Yes, and that is the grace.
I got that, George. Didn't you get that?
Yes, I did. Thank
Yeah.
you. So it was a lesson for us, in other words.
It's a lesson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Behind every form of suffering, there's grace hiding, concealed. It does not reveal itself until you surrender, until you suffer consciously, until you no longer deny what is. So there's the grace that's hiding behind every form of suffering.
Wow. George and Victoria, thank you again from Bend, Oregon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You've heard it 100 times. 60 is the new 50, 40 is the new 30.
Tonight,
We're going to meet several women who are redefining the way we age today.
beauty, the misconceptions,
It just pisses me off.
the shift, the new way women are aging in North America today with Cameron
I
Diaz
didn't think I'd be talking to Cameron Diaz about poop.
and Sharon Stone.
This is actually helping us to reshape the conversation.
Oprah Prime, tonight at 8, only on OWN.
Roll on. Easy Wax from Beat. Legs everywhere are convinced. Always the perfect temperature, it rolls on evenly for up to 28 days of salon quality smoothness. Easy Wax from Beat. Beat, what beauty feels like.
It's never too early to start a financial plan, especially if you've just had a baby. Or two. See what Sun Life Financial's customized approach to financial and retirement planning can do. Talk to an advisor about money for life today. Life's brighter under the sun.